And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, we're going to do something very special. We're going to do a Pokemon New Year's resolution. Now, everybody has different resolutions, whether it's I want to go to the gym and work out, or I want to eat better, or I'm going to stop drinking soda, I'm going to do all these different things. But for this channel, because this is a Pokemon channel, we're just going to do some Pokemon New Year's resolutions. And I thought long and hard. It was like, well, what do I want to do for the coming year for 2020? And it's pretty simple. I just want to do a little bit more with this channel. I want to help grow this channel, maybe add a little bit of elements to it, but mainly I want to make it about you guys. I want to be able to interact with the community. I want to be able to have conversations. I want to grow this channel, but I want to grow this channel in a way that this channel is able to highlight people that actually care about the hobby, if that makes sense. I feel like far too often, too much people get like accolades or respect, and they're not really a positive for this community. And I want that to be my 2020. I want to highlight people who are in this community who are positives, who make this hobby, make this community better. And I think the only way we're really going to be able to do that is just have more guests on this channel. And while this channel is not designed in any way to be like a podcast series or something like that, my goal is to highlight people that are maybe not as well known because yes, in the past I have had, in the relative sphere of Pokemon, think about like we are a small tight niche community, but it's not that big. But the people I've had on have had a little bit bigger channels, over 1,000 people. Honestly, for my New Year's resolution, I would like to have just some of you guys on this channel, whether you're down in the comments and you're just a big Pokemon fan and try to get a lot of thoughts from a lot of different people. And that's what I want to do. And when I think of 2020, I think about, what are the goals that I want to have for this channel? It's simple. I would like to have a subscriber count, 6,969 people. That's my goal for 2022. And if you guys don't understand why 6,969 is an awesome number, and that's why I landed on that number, then I can't help you out. But that's what I want to do, guys. And, just to say right now, Happy New Year's to everybody out there. But I kind of wrote. I don't ever write stuff down for this channel. If you guys have ever watched any of my live streams, I usually just wing it. But because it's this like special New Year's channel, I want to do a little bit more. Some of the things I have is I would like to share some of my purchases, which I'm relatively private about the purchases I make or the buys I'm doing. I think I need to grow as a person, need to show off a little bit, maybe more of my personal collection. I need to show off a little bit more of the buys I make. And that's something that I've always been like super hesitant to do for a multitude of reasons. I think showing off collections is like bragging. It's like, this is what I have, this is what people don't have. Or anytime I make buys, I'm afraid it's like, if I show off some of these buys, I could very easily sway the market where people, I don't know how to explain this, but some of the cards I buy are cards that I've talked about before on this channel. Are there cards that I think are undervalued? So if I already start to buy these cards and now make them available on the channel, or maybe like advertise them more, a little bit more to the masses, people that might have not known that card existed prior to me showing that, I could definitely be swaying the market. So I've always been like very hesitant to do that. But I think maybe I need to like start expanding a little bit and at least like explaining to you guys my thought process, because honestly, I do a lot of pretty awesome buys throughout the year, things that I don't show. And when I do show them, like I find myself talking about the very, very few things I talk about all the time. When I show like, I'll talk about like a secret rare I bought. I'll talk about that in like a million different videos. Or obviously like the Hypno from Aquapolis, the GMA slab I cracked, that's going to be like a multiple different video blog topic. And I'm like, yeah, I could only talk about these things that I buy, but I literally like can't talk about anything else. So I do want to maybe like do my best to add some of that stuff in for 2022 and not just like sway the market in any way. And that's going to be like a fine balance. And I'll let you guys let me know down in the comments if that's something you would actually like to see, like a little bit more of my personal collection, a little bit more of my actual buys, or, and you could be honest, you could be like, listen, I understand why you want to do that, but I don't think that would be a good thing for your channel. So you can let me know that. Uh, and then, I don't know, just different resolutions for 2022. And the thing about 2022 is, honestly, I'm going to let you know right now, 2022 is going to be a major make or break year for Pokemon in the very short term. And you might think like, no, how is that possible? How can you say that 2022 could be a make or break? Because if you've watched even one of my videos on this channel before, you know already that I am like super bullish about Pokemon. I'm super positive about Pokemon in the long term. But when you talk about very short term, very small windows, 2020 can really be a make or break. And one of my subscribers, Matt, made a great comment on my last video. He said, and this is what he wrote. He was like, honestly, I'm tired of hearing people talk about the Pokemon crash. Because, yes, the Pokemon crash. I'm sorry that people can't buy booster box from distributors and sell them between 2 to 3 times MSRP. I'm sorry that that's the crash everybody's talking about. And he's right in a way. Like, yeah, we do talk about the crash of Pokemon, and lo and behold, that some people can't sell booster boxes at 2 times MSRP at release. And is that really a crash? No, it's not. And I think we do that way too often, is we just, nitpick, and especially as content creators, we very easily nitpick things like that are like downturns of the hobby. But when you look at a lot of areas of the hobby, and I've tried to do my best to shed light on some of those areas of the hobby, like some sets, it's like, yeah, while we might be seeing a little bit of a downtrend in modern product, we're not seeing like super big pullbacks on tons of different stuff. So I think 2022 is going to be the make or break, because right now in the hobby, the reason why I still talk about modern, the reason why a lot of other content creators still talk about modern, is because in a way, modern is very clickbaity. And I hate to say that, like modern is clickbaity, but it is. People in this hobby, with the exception of, I like to think that you as the viewer of this channel are probably on a little bit higher tier. And I've always thought that. I've always said a million times, and you could probably go back in 20 different videos and hear me say the same thing. If you somehow, through the grace of God, made it through the YouTube rabbit hole and somehow made it to this channel, and somehow the YouTube algorithm recommended this channel to you, you are probably already super deep into Pokemon, and your knowledge is probably much higher than the average person. So with that said, modern, for the large majority of this hobby, is very clickbaity. And that's like tons of credit to you that you guys are able to get past just like all that clickbaity BS. And that's what a lot of it is. It's like the BS, the whole top 5 investments for 2022, or top 10 modern products to buy, or top 10 chase cards, are all like this, garbage we have to weed ourselves through, because there's a lot of content out there, and there's a lot of that like clickbaity stuff. But the reason I talk about modern too is that I'm not a fool to that either. So I'll make those, like, I'll talk about modern in a way. So the reason why I say 2020 will make or break this hobby in a way is that a lot of the collector, and again, what I just said, the majority of the hobby is interested in like that super short-term investability, that stonking out on modern. We're going to come in 2022 with a pretty long lull period for the prices of a lot of modern products. 2022, for a large majority of the collectible, the investability of the hobby, in my opinion, will be pretty stagnant. It'll be stagnant in a way that we'll see like a very steady price increase. And the reason why we'll see a steady price increase for a lot of this, still even modern stuff, is a lot of this stuff will probably go out of print, but there'll be a lot of speculation built in with, yeah, okay, let's say a Battle Styles and Chill and Rain, we don't see any more waves of it. There's still going to be a lot of speculation built into the gradual price increases that I think we're going to see on like a Chill and Rain booster box for the next year or two, where people are going to say, yes, okay, Chill and Rains went from a bottom of $75 a 70 depending on who you talk to, and now we're going to probably by the end of 2022, I'm going to guess, see that booster box sit in between 90, 100, $110, somewhere's within that area. So it's only going to be like, while those are still very good gains in the history of Pokemon, in the modern world we live in, the 2020 hype, the 2021, those type of gains are going to be relatively low. And the people that got into Pokemon for what I would say are the wrong reasons, and again, I'm super biased, right? When I talk about the wrong reasons for Pokemon, I'm talking about hopping in just because of rocket ship emojis and everything's going to the moon and we're all going to become rich because Pokemon is the next best, greatest investment. And the only thing I'm going to buy is super modern sets that are literally still in print and we're only at wave one, or products that haven't been released. So when we see that, I think 2022 is going to shake out a lot of those people. But this is why it's a make or break, because I've always been very strong in the belief that the people who stick around with Pokemon, because yes, we have the core group of people, the core investors or the core collectors, but we've had so many people enter this hobby. We've seen a lot. And I don't care what anyone says. I will literally argue with any person out there that says we're not going to see a lot of new collectors stick around with this hobby. We're gonna. So the question is what does that person do in 2022? That's why it's going to be the real make or break. Do they just stick with the modern? Do they go to the vintage, which what I think they're going to do? Or more importantly, which I've talked about now in multiple videos, is this new collector that joined in 2020? They were around, 2020, 2021. They've now been in the hobby for 2 years until 2022. Are they going to be just a different mindset type collector, which I do honestly believe? And I talked about it in the last video, that the collector has now morphed from a very new speculative collector to a now more seasoned, gritty type collector. And it's going to be fascinating to see. Now, what people do, and everybody, like I said, the people I'm talking to right now, talking into this camera, the people that are listening to this video, in my opinion, are a very different type of collector. But on the broad scale, if these people stick around, and if they stick around, a lot of the reasons why they're going to stick around, and it's going to be a make or break, is that money entered into the hobby. And if this money sticks around, because the real make or break for a lot of stuff, and it's not just modern, it's also vintage. And a lot of people are probably a little hesitant to hear that the money that was pumped into Pokemon also trickles into vintage. But trust me, it does. And the reason why is the price points for tons of cards, and I do not care the set. Even like the very obscure sets, the sets that I guess are not really obscure because I talk about them all the time, but for the majority of the hobby, people don't talk about. Late e-reader sets, early Nintendo sets, Gold Star sets, Diamond Pearl sets. Those are the sets that don't get like a ton of hype, but we still saw in 2020, 2021, amazing price increases for those. You could, if you don't believe me, you could literally go and research any single booster box price for any of those sets, and you'll see what they did. So the question is, we saw tons of price increases there. So the money was able to trickle its way through different areas of the hobby. It wasn't just modern. So 2022 is going to be a huge make or break for the long term of this hobby. And I think we're going to see like this real weird median happen. So we're going to see like, yes, a lot of the very speculative stuff, the stuff that has very poor fundamentals, and that's things I've talked about a lot on this channel, especially last year. Fundamentals of sets, fundamentals of cards, fundamentals of just products, right? When you look at cards, you say, is this a card that I think has a very low pop report that is just going to be a temporary low pop report? Is this going to be something that's going to explode in the near term? Example being, is this going to be a stained glass bird trio where, yes, pop reports stayed lowish until the PSA returns came back, then they exploded. The same thing with like pretty much, we'll just put it this way, any promo. That's a perfect example. Any modern Charizard, any modern chase card, very artificial low pops just until PSA turns around. And then 2022 is going to be a make or break because hopefully, fingers crossed now, it's taken way too long. And I'm always critical on CGC. And let me know down in the comments why you think I'm such a bad person. I'm always critical of the CGC. But hopefully, 2022 brings what we've been waiting for now for what seems like forever, those CGC pop reports. Let's see what those pop reports look like. Let's look at what people were actually grading at the end of 2020 and the majority of 2021. Because keep in mind, for that entire timeline, PSA was closed more or less for Pokemon. And sure, you can say that they technically had some tiers open, but they were, $600, $300, $200 grading. I've talked about it a million times now. There's not a lot of cards in Pokemon that are worth grading at $300 to $600. So when those CGC pop reports open up, we're really going to start to see what were people really grading in 2020? What were people really grading in 2021? Because, yeah, you got to keep in mind CGC for a while was the best option. They had $7, 10 cents bulk grading fees. Then, yeah, they bumped up their bulk fees like $1 to $8 and change. But those were the two best options. I think we were still very, very early into CGC grading because keep in mind, they only started in July of 2020. So they weren't like super new. I think it took a lot of people to start grading with CGC, including myself, to realize that, yes, while CGC is a good grader in certain aspects, they are an extremely harsh grader. So we'll start to see those pop reports come out and we'll start to see like how many 9s, how many 9.5s, and those very, very rare CGC 10s. Like, how many of those cards really truly exist on the market? I'm going to tell you right now, I think we as a hobby are going to be extremely shocked at how very little bit of CGC 10s there are across the board. Doesn't matter the set, doesn't matter the card. And then we're going to be able to compare those pop reports to the more well-established pop report, which is PSA. And we're going to be able to look at PSA that says, okay, like PSA was able to grade cards for 20 plus years. This is what their pop reports look like. This is how many 10s exist. Now, this is what CGC with X amount of cards and how many 10s exist for them. Now, what is that going to mean for 2020 to see CGC's pop report? I think what it's really going to mean is people are going to look at CGC, and you would think that people would look and say, oh, they're a harsher grader. We should value the cards more. No, I still think it's going to do the opposite effect. I think people are going to value CGC cards even less, and they're going to be less likely to grade cards with CGC if they can't get those high grades. And I think that's what one of the things that 2020 will show us. Now, what I am most afraid of, and this is definitely a thing that honestly, I don't like to use the word afraid on this channel because I think that's like, I don't know, the thought process that goes behind saying you're afraid of anything in the Pokemon hobby is like kind of BS. But honestly, I'm afraid that the demand for CGC graded cards will drop so drastically low that CGC will start to give out 10s way more. And yes, I say give out 10s with quotations a lot more, meaning there'll be more like willy-nilly with their 10s. Maybe we won't see a lot of CGC perfect 10s, but we may see a way more pristine 10s, like the 3 10s with a 9.5. Now, if that's the case, the reason why I say I'm afraid about that most is because that means that every single person who graded with CGC up until they potentially get very like low and PSA starts opening up the lower tiers, because you got to keep in mind CGC, I'm sure during 2020, 2021, were growing their staff at exponential rates, trying to keep up with demand. So they're going to start to have a ton of employees, very similar to PSA. So CGC is going to be able to turn and burn through a lot of cards much faster. And if the demand drops, they're probably going to say, why is the demand low? And they're going to say, well, the demand's a little bit lower because our cards are not holding a premium opposed to a PSA, because PSA does give that gem mint 10 grade. Now, if they start to give out some of these pristine 10s, for cards that maybe in the past might have earned those pristine 10s. The reason why I say I'm afraid is because it's going to be a huge detriment to literally every single person who has ever graded with CGC in the past and did not get those 10s. Because you know as well as I do, a CGC 10 will sell greater than a 9.5. And if a 9.5 we graded last year would now grade a 10, it's not fair to people. That's one of like the big things that's why I say I'm actually afraid of that. Now, you can tell me if you like agree with that or not, or maybe that's just preposterous and you're going to probably be like, listen, Poke Knowledge, honestly, on every single stream, you somehow bash CGC. And I know you're probably right. Can't help it. Can't help it. I don't like it. I used to like it. I don't like it anymore. I don't like bashing them. I wish I didn't have to bash them, but I see no other option at this point. Now, 2022, excluded now CGC and thinking about PSA. PSA, there is a very strong likelihood that we're going to see a drop in grading prices again. Right now, we're at $100 per card. They're saying that they're hoping to get to bulk by June. I think that's highly unlikely. But to see another 50% price increase by the middle of 2022, I see that as being a very high likelihood. So seeing $50 grading again by June and July 2022, very likely. Then, going into the end of 2022 to like October, November, December timeline to see potentially $30 to $20 grading for PSA open back up. Is this like something I think is possible, seeing how on January 1st going to be at $100? Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. Do I think we're going to get back to like the $10 bulk? No, I don't think we're going to get there. But I think we're going to start to see lower tiers there. So that's going to be very interesting to see what people had been sitting on throughout the course of 2021. Because when you talk to most collectors, if not all high-end series collectors, there's probably a million people out there. And out of all the people right now watching this live stream or watching this video after it's, been recorded and it's on YouTube throughout whatever, I bet you out of the people watching it, every single person is sitting on some sort of stack of cards that they're literally just waiting, saying, this is a stack of cards that I plan to grade at some point in the future. The only thing I'm waiting on is PSA's prices to decrease. And I think that's what a lot of people talk about. They say, I hate the word, the junk slab era. I hate that word. I like to call it the bulk slab era. BULK, the bulk slab era. That's what I call it. But everyone says that the low $10 grading fee is going to be that era. I don't think we've really seen it yet. What I think we're seeing is that era of bulk slabs. It's actually going to be way longer than a lot of people talk about. That's why it's going to be very interesting in when I talked about early in this video, that change in collector, that change in mindset, that newer collector transferring over into a more established collector or investor. It's going to be very interesting to see what cards those people grade. The people that were sitting on a stack of whether it was 10 cards to 1,000 cards waiting for PSA prices to decrease. I would love to see what cards people are actually going to send, because I would say that it's going to be like no vintage cards or anything, but that would actually be a lie. Because if you follow eBay auctions, buy it nows, ending listed, newly listed, whatever, while yes, a lot of the vintage cards that I talk about on this channel all the time as being great investments, while they are very rare and they are very scarce, the auctions and the listings don't come up every day. They actually do come up occasionally. So if you had literally 6 to 7 months of those auctions happening, ending, and people buying those cards with the sole intention of grading them at PSA in the future, I'll be interested to see where pop reports for PSA wind up. And I think that's the misconception a lot of people have, is they say, where I want to see where the pop reports of PSA wind up because of the $10 grading fee. And why I think that mindset is good, and I think that is like the start to like a very good thought process, I don't think it's the end game thought process. I think the end game thought process is to look at those pop reports play out through the end of 2022, after that very last bulk submission under $10 finally gets graded. And who knows when that's really going to happen. Some of these really like late value submissions, they're still in like October, November time period of 2020. So you still have like the rest of value through 2020, and then the early 2021. There's still a lot of cards that are going to come on the market. And you have your Ludkins, who still have some massive bulk submissions out there. You still have your graded gems, and I would say for Pokemon, those are probably the big two in my opinion for like the bulk submissions for Pokemon. When it comes to sports cards grading and stuff, there's a lot of third party, you know, uh, middlemen services out there that grade sports cards, but we're not worried about that because this is a Pokemon channel, so I'm not super worried about those other companies that submit to PSA. But I think when we see those returns come back, and then it's going to now open up this whole new like window in 2020. The market's going to have no other option but to drastically adapt and change. And that's going to be absolutely amazing to watch from both the outside and the inside, because that's what we're going to be able to do on this channel in 2022. We're going to be able to see all these cards come back, and we're going to finally get to answer that magic question. What did people actually grade? And yeah, we all have our thoughts. Our thoughts are obvious. Our thoughts are, a lot of people graded, base set Jungle Fossil, like those very early Wizard of the Coast sets, Team Rocket, a little bit of Neo, and then we think the rest of it was just all modern. Probably a bulk of it being Sun and Moon era, and then a huge bulk of that being very, very early Sword and Shield. And the reason why I say Sword and Shield is because you got to keep in mind, PSA, their tiers had shut down for those later Sword and Shield sets. So pretty much really going back to battle styles. So for the majority of, and yes, the chase cards you can still grade, but battle styles, Shining Fates, uh, I can't even think of sets. Chill and Rain, Evolving Skies, uh, Celebrations, with the exception of maybe the Charizard. All those sets never ended up really getting graded at PSA, again, with the exception of those major chase cards. So you have all those 5 sets. That's why I say the early Sun and Moon sets got graded. The big one being Darkness Ablaze. Darkness Ablaze really was able to sneak through, and we're going to see a lot more Darkness Ablaze Charizards come trickling through. But then the thing is when you think about before Darkness Ablaze for Sword and Shield, it really only leaves you with Rebel Clash, Sword and Shield base, and if you want, I guess you could throw in Champion's Path. But Champion's Path has the 2 Charizards and pretty much nothing else. And out of Rebel Clash, Sword and Shield base, there's not really much to grade in those sets. So it really just brings you then to the Sun and Moon block. And then for the Sun and Moon block, and then you just open up the Pandora's box of cards that are worth grading. You could just go back through like the last 5 sets. You're like, Cosmic Eclipse, Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, Team Up, Celestial Storm. Like, if you start opening up that Sun and Moon, what those cards can be graded, it's gonna be like a crazy amount. But that's the thing too, is 2022 will show us what the market and what the demand still is. And that's why I think that's fascinating for 2022. What will the market be like then? Because this will be the make or break again for 2022. Can the market actually absorb these cards? Because if the market can absorb these cards, then everyone was wrong. And then there is literally no such thing as bulk slab era. Now, me personally, do I think the market's going to be able to 100% absorb these cards? No, I don't think that. But that doesn't mean I can't be wrong. And if I am wrong and the market is that much stronger than we all think, and it does absorb it, that's going to mean 2022 is just going to be like a very small dip of that overall trend of Pokemon. And the reason why I say the overall trend is because I've talked about it a million times. I am bullish on Pokemon. Now, when we start to now we finally got through modern and that bulk stuff. But now you look at the vintage stuff, you would think, as a relatively, thought out person, the very high of highs we saw of 2020, 2021 with prices, wouldn't you think that for the majority of collectors, for the majority of people that had almost no financial interest in Pokemon and literally just wanted to sell out their collections, they didn't care, you would think that the prices of 2020, 2021 would have shook loose a lot of people's collections. And especially when I say a lot of people's collections, it's people that had a lot of this stuff raw that was worth grading. So you would assume that they probably made the educated decision at some point to grade those cards. So if that's the case, and they did grade a lot of these more high-end vintage cards, eventually they're going to hit the market. But then what we're going to see now is a very long downtrend of those higher end vintage cards being graded because they will have already been graded. So we might hit like this little period of time, which I think is a very strong likelihood. And it's going to potentially be a lot of great buying opportunities in 2022, where the market for a very small window of time, and for me, a small window of time can be like 6 to 8 months. And some people might be like, whoa, 6 to 8 months being a small window of time in the Pokemon hobby, that is a long period of time. I'm going to tell you right now, 6 to 8 months goes by very fast. So if that's the case and we see a flood of these high-end vintage cards hit the market in a 6 to 8 month window, but the amount of those vintage cards continually being submitted to PSA drops off a cliff and goes to almost nothing, where those cards are not being submitted, we might see a very small window of time where we can pick up cards on a super low cheap end because the market is oversaturated. But I think with cards like that, while we will see a very temporary oversaturation with these vintage cards, I think in the long term, greater than 6 to 8 months after these returns come back, we're going to start to see those cards slowly start to tick back up in price, given enough time, because as that oversupply gets eaten up by collectors and investors, the just overall quantity and the prices are just not going to be there for people. So we'll start to see a gradual uptick. And 2022 is going to just be this year where we're going to finally be able to see all that stuff happen. And that's why I say 2022 might actually be the biggest roller coaster year that we have ever seen. Because right now we've kind of just seen this. We saw the market go up, we saw the market kind of dip and then do this, But 2022 is really going to be like, it's not going to be one of those easy years. I think people don't realize 2022 is the accumulation of a lot of different things happening. And like I said, that accumulation is modern, the graded card market. There's all these things are now going to come to a head in 2022. And I think for the majority of people, they're going to hate 2022. 2022 is probably going to be actually one of the harder years on record to navigate when it comes to this hobby. So if you didn't want to hear that, I'm sorry, but happy New Year's to everybody. Like, that's just what I think. And I think it's going to be a very interesting year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So real quick, I'm just going to go to the chat. I see Basic Trainer in there. Says, Poke Knowledge, have you checked out the new Beanie Baby documentary? It's a fun watch with plenty of parallels to Pokemon collectibles. I have not watched it. I can't really talk about stuff like that. But hey, listen, guys, I haven't really been able to read the chat because obviously I've been on my soapbox talking, wishing all you guys a happy new year, talking about 2022. But if you do have questions that you have asked previously in the chat, just do me a favor right now. Write those questions right now. I'm going to skip to the bottom of the chat. I'm going to do my best to answer them. And then also, I would like to ask you guys to do something for 2022. And like I said earlier in this video, I have, all you guys have your New Year's resolution, which is lose weight, eat healthier, stop drinking soda, I don't know, ride your bike, spend more time with your family, all that stuff. That's great. But do me a favor. Also make your very own Pokemon New Year's resolution, a resolution that you will try to complete at some point in this hobby in 2022. And it doesn't have to, and don't be like, oh, my New Year's resolution has to be to get a PSA 10 first edition chart. No, it doesn't have to be an expensive thing. You can make it very simple. You can say, I want to complete, a master set of what's a like middle of the road Hidden Legends. There you go. Like that Hidden Legends is a very affordable master set to complete. There's no gold stars in that. It's still an EX set, still a Nintendo set. It's still rare. Like some big chase cards in there, not cheap, but like, hey, let me pick EX Hidden Legends. That's going to be my New Year's resolution. I want to complete a master set of that. That gives me 365 days. I could probably complete the commons and uncommons for $40 and do some sort of New Year's resolution for yourself for Pokemon. Or if you're like, I want to actually grade cards for the first time if you've never have, or I want to crack a slab for the first time, or whatever little New Year's resolution you want to do. I do ask that you guys do that because I think it'll be fun. And another New Year's resolution I do ask for, if you could do me a favor, hit the like button of this video. Because no one ever likes to like these videos. I don't know why. And then also, I did hear a couple people talk about that. They're like, oh, I never know when you go live. Honestly, you never know when I go live on this channel. All you got to do is just hit that notification bell. I don't really give like announcements for when I go live. Usually there's like a 15 minutes heads up to a lot of people. And I think another New Year's resolution of ours is I think we should get Basic Trainer back on this channel for another live stream. What do you guys think? If you guys didn't get a chance to watch that live stream with Basic Trainer, I think that should be another New Year's resolution. And we'll definitely have them on right after the Leonhardt Pop Shop at the end of December. We'll do that. So let's see. And so we got Gump Brave. So I've been saying Grump Brave, but now I'm smart enough. I will now say Gump Brave. Said, read the forecast for 2022. The people still going hard on Pokemon are on average way different than the 2021 average. Probably means less opportunity and more of a grind, as you allude to. Yeah, that could definitely be possible. I see Professor Oak in the chat. Good to see you, man. I see Anonymous. So Grump Brave said, I love to get more involved in Pokemon discussions on YouTube, basically beyond mere text. I don't necessarily want to launch a channel, but I love to formally discuss cards. Sounds like Paradise. Yeah, Gump Brave or anybody else listening to this, listen. If that's something you want to do, if you do want to talk Pokemon, if you want to come on this channel, I'm fine with highlighting literally anyone. There's some people that I definitely want to highlight, but if you want to reach out to me on Instagram, send me a message. Poke Knowledge Cards on Instagram. Listen, it probably looks like a fake account because I'm following no one and I have 0 posts. But it's probably the best place to contact me. Or you could contact me at Poke Knowledge Communications. Let me know if that's something you want to do. You want to come on this channel? We'll do like a Zoom live and we'll just chat Pokemon because it's a lot of fun. Basic Trainer said, let's do 3 hours talking about Pokemon. Let's see. So Basic Trainer said, Poke Knowledge, have you checked out Leonhardt's latest video talking about the details on the pop-up shop? Yeah, I did check out his latest video. So one of the things about his video, which was pretty awesome, is he said that his pop-up shop, it's going to kind of be like a walkthrough of that Kanto region. So you're going to start off going to like the 90s pop-up shop / card store, and you're going to go into like Professor Oak's lab, and you're going to be able to pick your Pokemon. And so like either fire type, grass type, or water type. So you could think about it in this way, like your Charmander, your Bulbasaur, your Squirtle, but you could choose that type of pack. And I don't really know what he means by that. I'm thinking like maybe it means like pack artwork, which makes me think that it's probably going to be a lot of base set packs, because when you think about base set packs, you only have like the Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise artwork. So maybe that's what he means by that. Or he'll just have like you pick the, fire, grass, or water, and then like there'll just be a tons of packs there. Now, I do hope, because we do have like the more, I don't know, premium pass or whatever, we'll be able to open our cards up live stream. We're going to be able to, at least I know so my wife for Christmas bought me a selfie stick, and I've never owned a selfie stick, and I never thought I would be the type of person to own a selfie stick, but she bought me one literally just for the Leonhardt Pop Shop at the end of January. So I'm going to be able to do a lot of content and be able to record a lot of stuff, be able to record myself meeting other people in the community, hopefully, that are actually willing to talk to me. I know Basic Trainer will be there. We'll probably do like maybe a little video on the side, do a little pack battle or something like that. But anyways, Leonhardt's Pop Shop, it looks like some people are going to be able to go on like the main stage, which he's going to have designed very similar to like a Pokemon Stadium, like the actual stadium from like the cartoon. And people are going to be able to live stream their openings there. Now, I do hope that it's not like a unlisted leaf type fiasco where there's just a million different packs being opened at one time and nobody could really appreciate it. I hope that there is a chance that it's going to be more like I don't know, like a personable type of thing. But who knows? I think no matter what happens at this point, I've already like mentally prepared myself to make this going to be like one of the best experiences that I've ever done from a Pokemon collecting aspect. And I just think it's going to be awesome. Let's see. So Keen said, Poke Knowledge, you should definitely start a Discord group. So Keen, the reason why I don't have a Discord group is because I don't know. I don't really have enough time to moderate a Discord group or do posts in a Discord group. And I just think there's just too much like in the background that you have to do. And I have tons of respect for everyone that does have Discord groups, but it's just not something I'm looking to do right now. Hey, Poke Knowledge. Hypothetical. You have to eliminate 3 Pokemon from Pokemon canon. There isn't enough room in the arc, and decisions must be made. Go. Trubbish, trash Pokemon, gone. I think that's everybody's first one. Let's see. 2 more Pokemon's got to delete from the canon. I'm going to guess that maybe Gump Brave means I have to talk about like the original 150, or I guess we'll add Mew in there. So the original 151. So I'll delete people, or I'll delete Pokemon from the original 151 because I think that would be a little bit more. So I'd say deleting Pokemon from the original. Ooh, that's a tough one. Let's say we'll get rid of. We'll keep Rattata, but we'll get rid of Raticate. We'll get rid of. We'll keep Pidgeotto, but we'll get rid of Pidgeot. And for the third one, we will get rid of. Oh man, this is tough. You guys really put me on the spot there. For the third one, we'll get rid of. I'm trying to think of like a heavy hitter, but I'd hate to get rid of any heavy hitters. We'll just get rid of Voltorb. So we just get rid of that entire evolution line because all he is a Pokeball anyways. All right, that's my answer. All right. So do Poke Knowledge. You think it's worth stockpiling Celebration Venusaurs, Blastoids, Birthday Pikachu since they're easier to pull? I don't know. Celebrations is one of those sets that I know people like to like compare Celebrations to like maybe a Generations, but or even maybe kind of compare it to an Evolutions. Though I don't hear anybody ever compare it to an Evolution because Evolutions is a normal expansion set opposed to like Celebration, which is more specialty. I think Celebrations is just so different because of how widely mass produced Celebrations is. So to collect a Venusaur, Blastoids, Birthday Pikachu, like I could understand it. I think there's a lot of opportunity there because I think prices for those cards are going to drop so drastically low that literally your entry points to like a Birthday Pikachu or Blastoise or Venusaur could potentially get so low that you'll actually be able to more or less time the bottom of those type of cards. And I've said it a million times, to time the high of highs or time the lows of lows is very hard. But there's a possibility that you could actually time the bottom for a lot of celebrations. Now I'm trying my best to time the bottom for like Green Ninja Gold Stars. I know there's a lot of people out there who are buying Green Ninja Gold Stars at $5. There's a lot of people out there buying Green Ninja Gold Stars at $4. Then there's a lot of people saying they were buying Green Ninja Gold Stars at $3. Listen, I've been looking at the Green Ninja Gold Star market, waiting for it to hit that low. And everyone saying they're buying up a ton of them at $3 is not true because I'm seeing a lot of buying pressure right now, currently at the end of 2021 at $4. So I think that price is still going to drop much lower. But trust me, I do understand what you're saying, and I do think that there will be a lot of buying opportunities and potential for investment in the long term. And the reason why is for a lot of these cards, assuming PSA like bulk tier does get open, $10 a card grade. And I think a lot of these cards in the long term of the hobby on PSA 9s, PSA 10s, you could easily be talking $20 to $30 in a PSA 9 versus maybe a PSA 10. So if you could pick up a lot of like Blastoise, Venusaurs, Birthday Pikachus, Green Ninja cards at like that $1, $2 range, $3 range, grade it for 10, make $20 to $30. Like in the long term, I could definitely see that being a very realistic possibility. Now, there's a lot of those cards out there, right? You can look at it and say, well, how would you compare it? Well, you can compare it to like a stained glass bird trio, or even like the Charizard from the Hidden Fates 10. Like, look at what that Charizard is still selling at in a PSA 10 after all this time. A card that is probably one of the most mass produced promo cards ever. It's still selling at like $20. You think about that promo at $20, that is still a card that you can probably, I don't know what those cards sell for raw, but I'm guessing like $2. Buy it for $2, grade it for 10, sell it for 20. Now, maybe that dollar amount isn't very enticing for a lot of people. So that's another thing you're going to have to keep in mind. Is the very low dollar amounts worth it for you? While I see there being a potential for a lot of gains, like percentage wise, you might just not be very interested because the dollar amounts will be so low. and there'll be a lot of grinding that goes on. And it's just like even like older WotC promos, you know, Mewtwo, Ivy Pikachu. Well, maybe not Ivy Pikachu, but a lot of these cards you can get them in bulk and bricks and stuff, or the Bumblebee Pikachu, or a lot of those more like mass produced promo type stuff. Like even those, you can grade a lot of them, but you still have to work your way through and sell all those cards individually. And it's not like all those cards just sell overnight. You could potentially like have a lot of money just tied up in grading fees, even though your profit margins might be like 100% on some of those cards. It could take you a long time to work your way through a lot of that inventory. So that would be the only thing I'd be a little nervous about for like a Venusaur, Blastoise, or Birthday Pikachu, like you asked. But I think you could do fine. So that answers that question. Uh, let's see. Derek said, I'm not sure Green Ninja Gold Star will do good since it's not playable at all. So I would say that for the grading and the investability for Pokemon, I would say playability does not matter. I would say if you're just strictly talking about the raw price of cards, then yeah, great. Playability obviously matters when you're talking about the playability for cards. But when you're talking about the investability and collectability, and especially those graded cards, I don't think playability really matters at all. And you could probably go through like a million different cards and say, yeah, all these cards didn't have playability, like uh I don't know. Like what's Celebrations just had the Cleffa from Neo Genesis, or what do you got? Like the Professor Elm from Neo Genesis. Yeah, like the Cleffa and the Professor Elm at the time, very playable cards, for the meta, for the TCG. But in the long term of those hobbies, like those cards don't demand a premium at all. Professor Elm obviously being a trainer and the Cleffa being a non-hollow rare. And yeah, the reason I talk about those is just because they were pumped out in celebrations. But when you talk about the playability of a card being the factor of why that card will be valuable in the long term, I'd say no. I think it's more when you look at stuff for investability and collectability, you got to just look at the card itself and say, what are people going to want in 10 years when this card is no longer in rotation and is no longer important? So, uh, so Matrix, love the name Matrix. Hey, Ancient Mew, good to see you on the chat. Uh, Matrix says, hey fam, what does everyone think of Japanese celebration promo packs being searchable? I tried, no luck, but I think they look much nicer than English. I'm holding some packs for the long term. I think you answered your own question there. Those celebration Japanese 25th anniversary packs being searchable, like I wouldn't touch them. I think it would be almost, I won't say impossible, but it would be next to impossible to find a lot of those packs for sale that have not already been searched. And you can go on Max Mofo's channel, and he opened up like 100 of those. And I think he was able to land one Gold Star Umbreon, no Charizards out of 100 packs, like nothing really like any big hitters. So if you think out of 100 packs he wasn't able to pull a Charizard, which I guess technically that's always a possibility that you're not going to pull like the major chase card, but the fact that he didn't really pull anything, and a lot of the cards he pulled were tons of like duplicates of this lower end stuff, I'd say it's safe to say that all these packs have already been searched. Same way with like very recently, just in the English side, like the 25th anniversary McDonald's Pokemon packs, those were all searchable. If you guys didn't know, you could shine a light through it and see what the front card was, because for the McDonald's promo packs, the front card was the hollow card. That's why I bet you if you go buy a lot of McDonald's promo packs, and I think they sell for like $4 right now, like the prices are pretty nice actually for sealed McDonald's packs, but they're probably already all searched, and you're probably only going to pull like, you could already know the starters you're going to pull. You're probably going to pull like a lot of Piplups, a lot of like the Diamond and Pearl or maybe Gen 6 ones or whatever, like it's going to be cards like that. And it's going to be the same way for those McDonald's packs. Now, if you want to keep them sealed, I would say I don't know. I'm not a Japanese guy. You talk to the wrong guy. You're asking the wrong channel about investing in Japanese cards. So Derek Lavender said a year in Pokemon is like 1,000 unique cards. He's right. So Professor Oak said, question, what's the best return? 20% monthly or 100% annually? The best return what's the best return? 20% monthly or 100% annually? I understand what he's saying there, like he's talking about compounding the interest. So like technically 20% monthly would be better than 100% annually. So I understand that it's kind of like worded in a way that it's a trick question in a way. But I'm going to have to say that it's not even like a 20% monthly. It's not 100% annually. I think it's just a matter of how big is your investment Pokemon portfolio. Because the reason I say that is because you can't just say like what's better, what's worse, because you just need to at all times have a ton of different gears in this hobby working. Like at any point in time, you should probably have like cards that you're actively buying, cards that you're actively selling, cards that you actively have a way at grading, cards that you're getting back from grading, cards that you're still sitting on waiting to be listed, sets that you're going after, sealed product you have, sealed product that you want. Like there's all these different things. So to just say it's like a 20% monthly or 100% annually, like I say that's so hard because the reason why is because if you're continuing to grow in the hobby, at least the way I am, and that's one of the things, Professor Oak, is that I can only talk about like me in the hobby. So for me, while on paper, I could make, I don't know, like hundreds to thousands of percent gains a month if I was strictly selling and not doing anything else. But I'm always still buying. And I always tell you that I think that there's always opportunities in the Pokemon market, whether the market's at the highest of highs or lowest of lows. I always think there's buying opportunities. So I'm always actively acquiring stuff. So whatever money I'm making, more often than not, is still being like in some way trickled back into the hobby. And it's not an even 1-to-1. It doesn't mean that for every dollar I sell, I buy, an even dollar. And a lot of times it could be like, for every dollar worth of Pokemon I sell, I only buy back in 25%, and that 75% just gets allotted to other stuff. But I wouldn't be able to give you a definitive answer of what's better, the 20% per month or the 100% annually. And again, like I said, it's almost built in to be like a trick question, but I've already like excluded that fact of like the way it's worded, just meaning it's going to be on a person to person basis. I would say for Pokemon, in order for it to be successful and for you to do good, as long as you're selling cards for more than you're paying for cards, you're doing good in the long term. Now, some cards you can sell for 200% gains, some cards you can only sell at 20% gains. Price points take in mind. There's a lot that goes in, man. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving wheels. I don't have a super definitive answer for you, Professor Oak. I'm sorry. Let's see. Basic Trainer said, Poke Knowledge, from a flippant standpoint, whether it's graded or raw cards to grade or lots to flip, what would be the lowest percentage return on investment you need in return in order to make it worth it for you? So that's a good question. So for me to grade a card, I would at a minimum like to make like 75% to $100 like return. Now, there is always that like So I would like to make like 100% on every card I grade, but there's always like the outliers where maybe I have to take some risks on some cards where maybe I will not make that 100% if that card grades lower, because there's always a lot of that like chance where you could be banking on a 10, maybe get a 9, and you could either break even or your percentage could get cut in half. But ideally, my return on investment for everything I buy, I always look at like a minimum of 100% return on investment. A lot of people look at like 20%. Some stuff like I like here's an example like the Hypno I talked about. All in between cost of the slab plus grading $300. You know, I value that card in the PSA 10 at $600. So that's like a example of 100% return on investment. Now, there's a lot of cards that I do buy that I expect way over 100% return on investment. But when I look at return on the investment, I also factor in time. And I think that's a lot of like things that other people maybe don't do. Well, they'll just look at strictly the dollar amount. And I'll look at, well, how much is my money tied up for and for how long? Because if you have, say, $30,000, $40,000 tied up for a year at a time, like that can be tough because that $30,000, even while at 100% return on your investment, in a year from now, you could turn that 30,000 into 60,000. It's a long time to sit. So I try not to do too much of that where it's only like have my money sitting stagnant for a year at a time. So even that return on an investment question is tough. Like it's you just have to have a lot of different parts moving at all times. And maybe that's not like the perfect answer, but I know some people will say like, well, they're only trying to make like 20% on cards. Not me. I think that's like a very understandable thought process a lot of people have, like the 20%, 30%, 50%, but that's just not how I work. It's just too hard. And whenever I buy stuff, when you talk about return on investment basic trainer, is I always like buy stuff with final value fees already, built into my brain. So when I say, all right, I'm going to buy a card for $100, I need to now sell this card for like 220, 240 in order to pay for final value fees, shipping, depending on how I sell it, whether it's through eBay or Facebook or, through a friend or whatever. Like that answers that question. Let's see. Layer 39 says, Happy New Year's. What is your collection goal for 2022? Example, what would you like to accomplish collection wise before the end of 2022? I got a lot of collection goals, but if I had to pick one for 2022, I think I would like, if possible, by the end of 2022, I would like to complete my reverse hollow common uncommon set for Skyridge. I think that's a very reasonable goal that I'm trying to set for myself. It's something that I've now been really going hard at. And it might sound very easy to some of you guys. You're like, commons and uncommons and reverse hollow, like that's got to be easy. It's not that easy because really I'm looking for minimum grades of 9. So they just either don't come up enough or a lot of those cards is I'm grading myself. So a long turnaround time for a lot of this stuff, guys. Welcome to the world of turnaround times. Welcome to the world of waiting for, grading prices to decrease. So I'd say that's a reasonable collection goal of mine. I'm already stockpiled. I have so many reverse hollows just waiting. Like I probably have a decent amount of the entire population currently available to have graded. So that's the answer to that question. Let's see. I see you say booyah on the stream. Another one of my 2020 New Year's resolutions to get you say booyah on one of these live streams. Okay. Chemo said, what software or tools do you use to track everything finance related? Expenditures, sales, etc. You ready for this answer? I don't use anything. I use my mind. I am not a, like, when you want to talk about like spreadsheets and stuff like that, you could probably talk to like old school Pokemon for answers to questions like that. I'm not the person to give you the answers for that. I'm very old school in the way that I have like, it's what's that saying? It's like people who have a very like messy workspace have a very organized mind. I would say I have a very relatively well organized like Pokemon space, but I still have like a very well organized mind. Now, it's one of those very like walking a tightrope type things. Like you're walking on a tightrope across the Grand Canyon, and like a small breeze could like swing you side to side. But I don't tell you right now, there's a lot of times like people will be like, "Hey, do you have this card?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Can I see it?" And I'm like, give me 30 minutes because it's like takes a little while. Like I just put together so I'll tell you guys right now. So we've talked about it before. If you're familiar with Rattle Pokemon, I just sent them a resealed pack. So I sent them one resealed pack, one non-resealed pack. See if you can tell the difference. Maybe we can make a video. But he had told me his favorite card, and so I wanted to add some of those cards, and it took me like forever to find those cards. It took like legitimately like 25 minutes for me to find his favorite character just because I had to search through so many cards. So maybe I need like a better system, but I'm far from that. I don't know if that will ever happen. But that's me being honest as like truthful answers. I have a lot of like graded box. Well, all right. The way I store a lot of, yeah, I'm not even gonna get into it because then you guys would just be like, "Oh my god, this guy's insane." But I talked about it before. I have like a bunch of cardboard boxes, and they're just like they're not the same size. They're just like different shapes, different sizes, and they're full of different products or different cards or different graded slabs, different sets, different raw cards, different binders, different old collections, all this stuff. And the only way, and then each cardboard box has like a little paper number on it, and it'll be like 1 through 1 million. And then I have a journal notebook, like a black and white old school journal notebook, like one of those journal notebooks you would have got from like English class in high school or middle school, like one of those black and white notebooks. And then in that notebook, there's a corresponding number. So it'll be like number one, and then it will say everything that's in that box. And that's how I have to like rifle through. I am super old school. I don't know. Uh, let's see. Professor Oak said boxes in the chat, everyone. Oh boy. Uh, Professor Oak says, I have the first ever Bitcoin magazine graded 9.8. I don't even know what's its worth. I think I was the first to get it graded. Is that what it is? Like Bitcoin magazine? That's how people are making money now. Uh, let's see. But yeah. Bob Thrasher said pre-order the 30th anniversary ETB right now. Yeah, you probably get a good deal. Pokey Collectible said, I said, not going to get into it, then I just get right into it. Yeah, I don't know. I got to like learn to have a little bit more of a filter. I feel like I don't know. I feel like a lot of times you guys could just ask me questions, and then I'm like, I don't want to answer it. And then I'm like, yeah, screw it. I'm just going to answer questions. But yeah, guys, I didn't want to like make this a super long live stream just because it's a New Year's, and I'm on the East Coast, so it's only, let's see, 10:08 here right now, going into the New Year's. But I did want to do like a little quick New Year's recap, just talk some Pokemon because I love to talk Pokemon. Now, if you guys uh, if you guys want to do another live stream soon, now you guys want to join this channel, you want to just come on, chat some Pokemon, like I said, reach out to me. I love to just be able to bounce thoughts off people and just like have a discussion. And I don't know, even basic trainer, I don't know, basic trainer, it's 10:09 p.m. We could still do a hour-long conversation if you want. We could do another live stream right after this. Like I'm totally up for talking Pokemon until midnight, because now that I have a baby, I went over to my friend's house earlier tonight. We had sushi. It was a great time. We had dinner, drank a couple drinks, but we had to be home by 7 p.m. Like, welcome to the world of having a 6-month-old at home. And he's sleeping. I heard him crying a little bit, but I think my wife was still up, so she's able to take care of him now. But hey, guys, thank you guys for supporting the channel through the last year. Let's hope by the end of 2022 we hit our goal of 6,969 subscribers. But other than that, guys, I'll catch you on the next video.